And thanks for being with us here on Deck, and a special one today. Personally, one of my all-time favorites, Game 2 of the 2012 ALDS Orioles and Yankees in downtown Baltimore. And boy, was the town fired up for this one. The Orioles lose a tough Game 1. We'll get into that in a moment, but obviously riding a magical wave throughout the 2012 seasons, one of the most special seasons in recent Orioles history. After 14 consecutive years of losing, here's this team that somehow out of nowhere is going toe-to-toe with the New York Yankees. And the Orioles that year broke their long playoff drought, and playoff baseball returned to Oriole Park at Camden Yards for the first time since October of 1997. Orioles and Yankees, they were neck and neck all year long. And in Game 2, the Orioles down 1-0 in that series. It was the veteran left-hander, Andy Pettitte, who at that time had pitched in pretty much a lifetime's worth of postseason games, against Wei-In Chen, a rookie left-hander for the Orioles, who's making his postseason debut. Needless to say, the Orioles needed this one. They needed a bounce-back win to tie the series up and to head to New York with the series at 1-1. Jim Johnson, who had a terrific season, 51 saves, and he was marvelous, and had been a part of some really tough seasons in the Orioles' history, and was a big part of this great bullpen in 2012 and really in 2013 as well. But he had a rough outing the night before. After a very lengthy rain delay, the Orioles and Yankees playing in the ninth inning, things came undone for Jim Johnson.
Well, the first night, that was incredible that we had, the first playoff game, like you said, in so many years. And, you saw how starved the fan base was, and they packed the house. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of my better games, and we let that one get away. So Game 2, I kind of wanted to prove a point that, hey, we went through a lot that year as a team, and a lot of people weren't really buying into the fact that we were gonna put up a fight in the playoffs. I think a lot of people kind of just thought that, all right, it was a feel-good story for the season, and that, they're going to play the Yankees and they're just going to, just bounce out real quick. And I think winning that Game 2 at home, I do remember specifically as I was warming up for Game 2, the crowd Game 2 I felt like was even louder than Game 1 when I came in the game. And I think it was, game 1 I came in, it was a tied game. Game 2 I came in, we were up by, I think, 1. And I remember getting on the mound, and before I was even throwing the pitch, I could actually feel the vibrations of the stadium on the mound. So I distinctly remember that. After that, things kind of get a little blurry, kind of game fog, but it was definitely, a moment that I really don't ever forget.
That's Jim Johnson. We had a lengthy conversation with him that will be out tomorrow on Orioles Magic, the podcast, which you can download and hear our conversation at Orioles.com/podcast, or wherever you download your podcast. So Jim Johnson, let's one get away from him in Game 1 of this 2012 ALDS. But with the Orioles ahead 3-2 in the ninth inning, with Camden Yards buzzing, shaking in this moment, Jim Johnson has to go through Derek Jeter, Ichiro Suzuki, and Alex Rodriguez to nail down a one-run lead against the New York Yankees to tie this series up. And at that time, Alex Rodriguez steps to the plate with 2 outs in this ninth inning, as the true villain of baseball, also struggling mightily and with a lot of pressure on Alex to deliver in the postseason. Johnson went toe-to-toe with A-Rod.
And Johnson is ready, into his motion, and delivers. Sinker, swing and a miss, struck, came out, ball game over. Jim Johnson, redemption. He gets him 1, 2, 3, and he ends it with a strikeout of Alex Rodriguez. And the 2012 divisional series is all tied up.
To say Camden Yards was loud in that moment was really something. You just heard Jim Johnson talk about it. It was one of those moments. And for the Orioles in 2012, there were so many great moments, and the fans were totally bought in on it. And it started this great 5-year run of winning. But you needed that celebration moment at home. This is a team that won 93 games that year. I mean, really a wonderful team with so many interesting characters out of nowhere, everything you want to see in a team, and with a big chip on their shoulder. They clinch on their way to St. Pete to finish out the season, still at that point trying to win a division title. And then they have to go to Texas to face the two-time pennant-winning Rangers, consecutive pennant-winning Rangers, to win the wildcard game, to even force a home playoff game. And in that game, the Orioles are taking on Yu Darvish and the Texas Rangers, and the Orioles had Joe Saunders, the veteran southpaw, on the mound. Really mighty underdogs on the road in Arlington, Texas. Jim Johnson on the mound for this one, protecting a 5-1 lead, but somehow, some way, with 2 outs in this 9th inning, Johnson had loaded the bases, and the tying run came to the plate.
And Johnson delivers. Murphy sends a fly ball toward left center. That should do it.
So the Orioles get their home playoff game, but still, to consummate the whole thing, they had to win one at home. And that's what they're able to do in Game 2 of this American League Division Series against the New York Yankees. And in that moment, I mean, listen, the town had to celebrate this team, and they got that. Ironically, in Game 1 of that series, which was just as much energy as Game 2 in many ways, but in Game 1, there was a 2+ hour rain delay. I remember doing radio rain delay coverage for 2 hours before that game even begins, and every game in that series. I mean, it was a 3-2 series. The Yankees win Game 5. Orioles are on the road against CC Sabathia. Every game was a nail-biter. Every game was close. It was a slugfest. I mean, a real rock'em sock'em kind of series. And in this series, every play mattered. So you're almost exhausted after Game 1, 2+ hour rain delay. Gets away from Jim Johnson late in the game. The Orioles dust themselves off as they had all season long and find a way to win a 1-run game, kind of the personification of this team in Game 2, just a few hours later, essentially. By the way, 2 hour and 20+ minute rain delay Game 1, people forget. There was a 40-minute rain delay preceding Game 2 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. But what a marvelous team, even though they fell short in this series. They get that home playoff win, and there was a big-time celebration for those 2 home playoff games. And what I've always said about it, as someone who remembers playoff baseball in the middle 90s at Camden Yards, and to be deprived of that in the sense of not having those moments of joy, to witness that type of atmosphere with my fellow Baltimoreans. And then it was almost like all those hard feelings, all those rough years just kind of evaporated, went away. And everyone in Baltimore kind of woke up and said, this is really what it's supposed to be like. This is fun. And the reality is that there was almost a generational baton pass, I felt, with those games, that maybe you missed out on it for 15 or so years, but it all kind of was this rebirth of Baltimore baseball. You hate saying it like that because it never goes away, win, lose, or draw, but just that feeling of we're all back here. This is fun, and this is the way it's supposed to be. And it was an electric 2 games, and the Orioles needed that Game 2 win, and to do it with Jim Johnson protecting a 1-run lead against the Yankees was really, really something, with Alex Rodriguez to try and nail things down up at the plate. And we're going to relive that game in its entirety, all the drama of it, which includes some great pitching by Wei-In Chen and some big clutch hitting by Chris Davis. You'll see it all coming up. And don't forget to check out Orioles Magic, the podcast. It drops tomorrow wherever you download podcasts. Tomorrow's guest, joining me and Jeff Arnold, will be none other than Jim Johnson, who had a terrific 13-year big league career, 8 of those seasons in Baltimore, former Jim Palmer Award winner and all-star closer, a terrific baseball story, really a cerebral guy. That podcast drops on Friday. Coming up on Sunday, we will go back in time to more Orioles playoff baseball. This in 1996, Game 1 of the division series against the Cleveland Indians. The Orioles again playing the underdog role in this series, but a marvelous playoff day game at Camden Yards, where the Orioles played their first ever playoff game at the ballpark in downtown Baltimore. Well, learning is important year-round, and that is why we're excited to offer our fans the Summer Slugger program. Summer Slugger is a fun, interactive online course that uses the game of baseball to help kids ages 8 to 11 maintain their math and literacy skills during the summer months. Summer Slugger is a continuous and engaging learning experience that uses the game of baseball to prepare students of all backgrounds to enter the next school year on track. To learn more and register with code Orioles, Visit summerslugger.com/Orioles. All right, let's go back to October of 2012, Game 2 of the American League Division Series. Orioles and Yankees at a rocking Camden Yards in downtown Baltimore. The Orioles trailing the Yankees 1-0 in this best-of-5 series, needing a win in Baltimore to even this series. It's a nail-biter all the way through, so sit back and enjoy. And thanks for being with us on Deck